Hey everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're having an amazing day, and thanks so much for joining me for another art video. In this video, I am taking you through a drawing exercise on perspective. More specifically, I am sharing with you how I draw two simple buildings using three-point perspective and, more specifically even, the worm's eye view. This is part of a workshop that I created for my innermost community over on Patreon, and I wanted to share this part of it with you because I know that lots of you are interested in improving your drawing skills, and perspective and 3D form are essential art fundamentals that we need to better understand and continue practicing in order to improve our drawing. Having said all that, let's jump straight in. All right, so let's go ahead and start setting ourselves up for success for this building sketch. Let's first draw our horizon line. And when it comes to drawing a building, it is going to be important that we leave a little extra space below our horizon line. You're going to see why in just a bit. But for this one, I'm going to place my horizon line maybe 2 inches above the bottom edge of my sketchbook page here. You can do 1.5 inches to 2 inches, anything like that will do. So this is going to be my horizon line, and we know that along our horizon line, we have our 2 vanishing points. So vanishing point is going to be somewhere over here, maybe 1/2 inch from the left edge of my page, and over here, let's do another approximately 1/2 inch from the right edge of my page. VP1, VP2. And then our third vanishing point, let's just place somewhere in the middle here so that the corner of our building can be somewhere in the middle of the page with a straight vertical line. And this is going to be VP3. So let's get started with drawing our building here. We're drawing a building which has to look like it is on the ground, right? Buildings are constructed at ground level, and obviously with this kind of exercise, these objects or elements look like they are floating in the air, and we need to make this building look like it is on the ground, right? So the building actually starts below our eye level, but most of the building is above our eye level, if that makes sense. So because we're drawing a building, we have to make sure that that lowest portion of the building that is attached to the ground, that is below our eye level, is actually drawn below the horizon line. So this is why we left a little extra space down here. However, the majority of the building is going to be above the horizon line. We're getting started with that lowest plane. Same thing, I'm just going below the horizon line. So I'm going to line my ruler with vanishing point number 1, and I'm going to slightly shift this down, and I'm going to bring down this diagonal. Now I have to place the second diagonal coming from vanishing point number 1. So I'm going to open this a little bit more. Open that angle a little bit more. Make sure that your ruler is still aligned with vanishing point number 1, and bring down that second diagonal. Nice, long, light line. Now I'm going to bring down my straight vertical line coming down from vanishing point number 3, intersecting these 2 lines. So I have intersection here, and I have an intersection here. Intersection and vanishing point number 2. Nice, long, light line. And intersection, vanishing point number 2, align well, and bring out a second nice, long, light line. So we now have that base of the building right here. Let me draw this out for you. I'm not going to actually darken these back sections too much because we're not actually going to be able to see those because the building is not transparent. But just so that you can visualize what that bottom plane is for this rectangular prism for this building, here's that base for that rectangular prism, that bottom plane that we were drawing in this exercise. Only because this is a building, I made sure to add an extra space below the horizon line so that the building can actually look like it is on the ground, attached to the ground. Because over here, if my horizon line is right here and my objects are above the horizon line, they look like they are floating. So because of the nature of this particular thing that we're drawing, this building, we have to make it look like it is at least slightly below or on the horizon line, right? So that's why we left an extra space. So I'm switching on back to my B pencil grade to finish up this rectangular prism. We already have this corner line closest to us. I have to create the other two. So I'm going to align my ruler with vanishing point number 3 and the corner of my shape down here, and I have another corner down here. So I'm gonna bring this up as much as I'd like, and same thing over here. I'm going to align my ruler with vanishing point number 3 and this corner right here and bring this up. So now we have to close these two side planes. Let's pick a height that we want for the building. Let's just say I want my building to be this tall. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to align my ruler with this tick mark that I've created for the height of my building, align it with that tick mark and with vanishing point number 1 over here on the left, and close this left side plane. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this side plane over here on the right. I'm going to align my ruler with this tick mark right here, align my ruler with vanishing point number 2 on the right, and close this side plane. So now I can go ahead and erase my extra sections here that I don't need anymore. I'm going to actually make this a little bit taller. So I'm going to create these lines again, bring up these lines again, and I'm going to make my building a little bit taller. So let's say I want my height of my building to be over here instead of down here. So same thing, I'm just gonna align this tick mark with vanishing point number 1 on the right and close this plane. Same thing over here to close this plane on the right, align my ruler with the tick mark and with vanishing point number 2. Close. Okay, I think this height is a little bit more to my liking. So now we have this box that is going to be our building, the general 3-dimensional structure for the building. Now we can actually start turning this into something that looks like a building. Because I added in that extra section at the bottom, below the horizon line, and I made sure to start this box down here below the horizon line, it actually looks like a building, like it's on the ground. This is the horizon line, the ground level. We have this general large building structure that is built on the ground level. Because this 3D form starts below our eye level and it goes way, way high above our eye level, we don't really see the bottom plane or the top plane. But let's just say that this is a rectangular prism that is made out of glass or transparent plastic, and you would be able to see through that material. Well, the top plane would be somewhere like this. And this is the diamond shape that I created before that I started with. So now that this looks good, I'm gonna start turning this into a building. I'm gonna add windows and a door or two, maybe even a little sign at the top. We'll see where this goes. But first I'm going to erase unnecessary lines. I'm gonna switch on back to using my B pencil, and let's add in some windows. Bring to mind different buildings that you've seen in your life. What do you want to turn this building into? Do you want it to be more of like a bank or an office building? Or maybe you wanted to make your building shorter and have it be more of like a little coffee shop or a little boutique or something like that. Whatever the case may be that you would like to turn this building into, think of the window designs and the types of doors that go hand in hand with that type of building. Something that is super helpful for me if I want to add in an even number of windows, let's just say I want to add in 6 windows, 8 windows, 4 windows, or whatever the case may be. I like bringing down a line that would divide this plane into two equal halves. Because once I have divided this entire face or plane or side into two halves, I know that I have to fit in 2 over here and 2 over here, or 3 over here and 3 over here, or 4 over here and 4 over here. And it's a lot easier because when you don't have this separated out like this, things sometimes can end up not fitting at all, or you can end up creating way too many windows. Once I have this separated out, let's just say that I want to make 6 windows. So I'm going to now divide this into 3 sections with lines coming from vanishing point 3 over here at the top. And I'm going to separate out this part into 3 sections as well. Now I have separated this into 6 sections that I can use to more easily draw in my windows. So after you created your lines coming from vanishing point number 3, separating out your 6 sections for your 6 windows, draw some diagonals coming out from vanishing point number 2. Because once you have that grid in, you can just draw your windows inside of those shapes created by the lines. It's challenging to draw the smaller ones, and they get easier to draw as they get bigger and bigger, and you're making your way towards the bottom of the building. So you can see how I'm drawing these shapes inside of those grid shapes that I created first. And in just a bit, I'm going to darken these shapes so you're going to see them way more than the grid lines. And once you get good at drawing these using the grid lines and all these lines that you create for yourself, you can start drawing these completely freehand without adding in all the lines, and they're gonna look good. But initially, I would recommend drawing out these lines. If I want my door to be right in the middle of this plane, I can use this line right here and place it right in the middle there. Even this top edge for the door should be slightly slanted and going towards vanishing point number 2. Okay, so I'm gonna go over my window shapes with my softer pencil grade so that I can see them better. I'm gonna sharpen this first. These shapes are very small, so I wanna go in nice and sharp. What's cool is that once you have your shapes drawn in lightly effectively, you can go in relatively quick and loose, and your shapes are still gonna look believable. And I can darken these windows with some quick shading or hatching. You can certainly use that strategy for creating that thickness for the walls that you're able to see through the transparent windows that I shared with you in the previous tutorial for the bird's eye view if you want. But these windows are so small for me that I feel that I want to shade them in like this and then challenge myself in some other way with this drawing. Now, what would happen if I wanted to add in like an extra section to the building coming this way? Like a second rectangular prism, shorter rectangular prism that is attached to this side of the building coming out. How would I do that? Well, we know that the second building also has to be attached to the ground. And it also has to be attached to this face of the building if we want them to look like they are stuck together, and maybe you could enter through one building and like go into the other one, like back and forth, or attached. So knowing those two things, what I would do would be to use this same line here, bring it down a little bit more. I want these two buildings to be in alignment. So this is why I'm using this same line that I used for this building over here. So same thing in the back. Let's say that this second part of the building has exactly the same dimensions as this bottom shape that we created for the base here. So if we know that the base of this building would be kind of like that, and we want this second part of the building to look like it's in alignment with this building and that it also has the same depth to it, we also have to use this same line, right? And remember, this line is coming from vanishing point number 2. So we kind of already have these two guidelines for us so that we can start our next section of the building. How do we move on from there? Well, now that I have these two diagonals that I have drawn using vanishing point number 2, I would create this corner line right here for this other building using vanishing point number 3. So let's bring that line down from vanishing point number 3. Let's say that I want that corner to be... So I now have my two intersections. I have the intersection here, and I have the intersection here. So now that I have my two diagonals coming from vanishing point number 2, and I have my diagonal coming from vanishing point number 3, and I have my two intersections. Now that I have these two, I have to create my intersections using vanishing point 1. So I've now created that base for the second building. And now that we have that base where that second part of the building would be, now we can start giving that building height, and we can draw in the two side planes. So if this is the corner of the building that's closest to us, this line that we've just drawn in using vanishing point number 3, this side plane already has this line drawn in. If this building is attached to this building, we already have this line that would close this plane. So I don't need to add in an extra line here, but I do need to add in this line over here closing this left plane. So I need to use this corner for this shape, place my ruler and align my ruler with vanishing point number 3 at the top and this corner of this shape down here. Bring this line up, and then it's just going to be a matter of, I can erase this back section of this first building because this building would be covering it up. Maybe not entirely, but you know, a section. So I have this line, I have this corner that is closest to us, and I have this line for this other plane. And now I can just decide on the height that I want for this other part of the building. So maybe it's going to be half as tall as this one. So I'm going to place a tick mark right there. And once I have my tick mark, I can align my ruler with that tick mark and vanishing point number 2 on the right and close this building here. And then I need to align this with vanishing point number 1 and close that building. So I have this second section of the building right here. And I'm going to erase my unnecessary lines that we actually wouldn't be able to see. So all of this I can erase. And this is what this second macro general structure would be. So this could be a separate shop or a coffee shop or anything like that, or it can be a second part or an attachment of the same building. It's up to you. So same thing here. If I wanted to add in windows, add in as many windows as you'd like and whatever shape you want to make them. Just make sure that you're using your vanishing points to create your slanted lines. Let's say that I want to add in a sign on top of this building like I did with my bird's eye view exercise. I can use these slanted lines that I already created for my two kind of posts here. On either side, they're going to be holding the sign up. And I would be bringing in a couple of lines from vanishing point number 2. That's that bottom edge of the sign. And then I would, depending on how wide I want that sign to be, and I'm gonna give that sign the width that I want it to have by using lines that are coming from vanishing point number 3. And this is the rectangle for that sign. The two little posts that are holding up the sign. If I wanted to add in windows on this plane, just lay down as many guidelines for yourself as you need, and then you can draw the windows inside of those shapes. So these look like office buildings for me, but really depending on the shape of your windows and the amount of your windows, and the size of your windows, they can definitely look like different kinds of buildings or shops or whatever it is. So whatever kind of building it is that you want to draw, make sure that you're bringing to mind different kinds of doors, windows, and all that kind of stuff that you have seen for that type of building, and try to use those kinds of designs and shapes and sizes. Add in a few more windows here. And then I'm gonna move on to add a little sidewalk. If I wanted to add in a sidewalk, I have to use my vanishing points on either side. Of course, you need space down here to create a sidewalk. For me, I can open it up a little bit, open up that angle. Another line coming from vanishing point 1. And this would be the sidewalk. There's so much that you can do with this kind of exercise. So many things that you can bring in and play with to challenge yourself more and add more detail to your piece. You can definitely add another building over here, or a couple of different buildings, or take this drawing as far as you'd like. I'm gonna add in a little bit of shading and extra details, and I'm gonna call this drawing done. Just adding a few more kind of natural organic elements here to create a little bit of a balance with the more geometric-y, perfect man-made elements. And also practice more loose kind of pencil strokes and marks and lines and shapes, and add more interest to the piece. All right, that's gonna do it for my 3-point perspective with the worm's eye view. I want to encourage you to take as long as you like with this, really bring in your own ideas, your own creativity, and the more you practice with these kinds of grids intentionally and strategically to develop your understanding of 3D form and perspective, the more easily you're gonna be able to go out to a coffee shop or sit in front of a building or a shop of some kind and draw it freehand. Without having to draw all of these lines, you're going to be able to tell mistakes a lot more easily and where you went wrong so that you can fix it more easily. All right, you guys, that is going to do it for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you found it helpful. And if you did,
pretty please make sure to give this video a thumbs up because it really helps support the work that I am doing here on YouTube and helps others get to know about my channel. Thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to subscribe and click on that little bell so that you can be notified of when I share my new videos, which happens every single week. Have a beautiful rest of the day and see you soon. Bye guys!